Charging is now complete. Test will commence in 4 seconds.
Our test preparation process. One of the first test preparation steps is to correctly position the vehicle seats. We follow a standardized protocol and use a device that represents a human occupant to determine exactly where the dummy should sit. Next, we take measurements of the vehicle structure so that we can measure intrusion after the crash. After that, the vehicle is turned over to the vehicle prep team, who get the rest of the car ready for the test.
Every vehicle that comes into the Institute is assigned a crash test number and a book. This book is our little Bible. It's our checkoff sheets. For everything we do to this vehicle, we need to initial it and date it. This book follows the vehicle all the way through the process, right till post-crash.
I'm just going to do a very quick inspection underneath the vehicle just to make sure that there's no previous damage. I'm draining all the fluids out of the vehicle. That way we don't make a mess right after the crash.
Now that we've drained the fuel from this vehicle, we're going to go ahead and replace that with a solvent that we've dyed purple. It weighs the same as gasoline, but it has a higher flash point.
Just waiting for the gas to come out. There we go. Purple, we're good. Now we have all the gas out. Purple is in the lines, so if there's any leaks, we'll be able to detect them.
We're putting the rack in the vehicle right now. We're getting ready to install all this instrumentation here. It has to be bolted to the heaviest part of the vehicle through the floor so that it doesn't pull loose, doesn't bend. Right now we're installing all the boxes and power supplies to run all the equipment that we're going to be attaching to the vehicle.
The majority of our onboard equipment is mounted in the trunk of the vehicle. This includes power for our onboard camera systems, power for data acquisition, and also our onboard braking unit.
So I've cut the brake lines, and I'm going to be putting some fittings on these lines and a hose which will run from these lines to the back. The red box I'm going to attach these to actually fires nitrogen into the rear brakes, and that's what's going to stop the car if we should need it.
Here are the onboard digital cameras that we're going to be mounting on the door. We need to remove this door panel so we can tie into some stiff structure. Now the front cameras and lights are installed, we're going to move into the rear of the vehicle where we're going to install the rear cameras. So I'm going to measure this and make sure that it's in the exact same spot so the shot looks the same from vehicle to vehicle.
We just bolted the chains on. I welded some hooks onto the subframe on either side. This chain is actually what's going to hook to a skate in the floor, and that's going to pull the car down the runway.
Right now what you're seeing taking place is striping the center of the vehicle. And we'll be using these marks in order to align the vehicle on the crash machine before it's tied down. The reason we put targets on the vehicle here is so that we can actually measure the reaction of the dummy and the vehicle itself. We have marks on the side, on the roof. What we can see then is how much the dummy moves from one point to another, how much the steering wheel may move. We can use this for various measurements when we analyze what happens after the crash. We're getting ready now to do the final step in vehicle prep, and that's the weighing of the vehicle. We have all our instrumentation in place, and we've added weight to simulate the dummy being in position. This takes just a few minutes, but it's one of the most important things we do. This weight is put into the crash machine and is part of the equation for making sure our speed is right on the money. After the vehicle is fully prepped, it's moved to the crash hall.
The purpose of wheeling the car out into the crash hall before the test is twofold. One, so that we can line the vehicle up at point of impact, and also so that we can frame and focus both our onboard and offboard slow motion cameras. The dummy is also placed in the vehicle in the crash hall before it's pushed down the runway, where it will sit overnight in a temperature-controlled shed.
418. 418.
In the morning, we proceed with our final preparation before testing, which includes tying the vehicle down to the crash machine, seating the dummy, and applying grease paint so we can determine contact points, and making any last-minute adjustments to our onboard instrumentation.
Main battery voltage 12.8.
After everything has been completed and checked, we exit the shed and the test is initiated from the control tower in the crash hall.
Charging is now complete. Test will commence in 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1, we're underway.
To ensure that all crash test dummies are calibrated and ready for testing. The general idea behind the calibration is to ensure that a dummy used at the Institute will react the same way as a dummy used in other test labs. It also gives us repeatability from test to test. The calibration test consists of head drops, thorax impacts, knee impacts, and also rear impacts. Here at the Institute, we have 3 types of dummies: frontal impact dummies, side impact dummies, and also rear impact dummies. We also have different sizes, ranging from a 6-month-old infant to a 95th percentile male. The 95th percentile male crash test dummy is larger than 95% of the population. I wouldn't have a back if I tried to pick him up. Our workhorse here at the VRC is the Hybrid 3 50 percentile male crash test dummy. He's 5'10" and his weight is 172 pounds. He is used in our frontal test programs. The test dummy that we use for rear impact testing is called BioRid. He has articulating vertebrae. He reacts very much like a human, and he's definitely more biofidelic for rear impact testing than the standard frontal impact dummy. This is our 5th percentile female. She is used for side impact testing. We have from 20 to 40 different sensors in the dummy. We have accelerometers, which measure the acceleration. We have load cells, which measure the forces. And we also have potentiometers in the ribs that measure the movement of the rib. Once fully instrumented, our crash test dummies are starting to approach $200,000 in value. It's fascinating that we can take the technology that we have and place it in a vehicle and send the vehicle into a barrier, and afterwards take that data given to us by a freshly calibrated dummy and use that data as one of the tools to determine what would happen to a human if he were sitting in the dummy's place.
Disclaimer: this video was created with the aim to educate and inspire its audience. The creator of this video does not own the video clips or the music. All rights are reserved to their respective owners. Copyright policy. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.